Okay, hello. I think we're still in the morning, so good morning, welcome. It's good to see you all. Thank you for coming down. My name's Tom Rainsford. I'm the marketing director at Beavertown. For those that don't know Beavertown, we're a brewery. We make beer. We make a beer called Neck Oil, which hopefully lots of you know. If you don't know, we're very slightly behind target, so if you would like to go to a pub and drink some soon, that would be particularly helpful. The second thing is we're quite well known for our glasses in the pubs, right, that have like skulls on them. Now, I can't statistically prove this, but I've said it on enough stages to enough people that we are the most stolen pint glass in the UK, right? So there's people nodding, there's people putting up their hands. Now, look, from a marketing perspective, I 100% support your theft, right? I want you to steal these pint glasses. And the reason that I want you to steal those pint glasses is I can't pay from an advertising perspective to get into your cupboard, right? It would be odd. I can pay to get onto your TV and in the things you look at on your phone, but I can't pay to get into your cupboard. And when you come down every morning for your glass of water, and let's always have a glass of water before a coffee in the morning, okay? If anyone's looking out for you today, it's me. So let's make sure we have our water before a coffee. You will see our pint glass in your cupboard and you will think about our brand. And that is helpful to me. That is helpful to me. It keeps our brand top of mind. So that's important. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about Beavertown, the business and the brand, and some of our approaches to e-commerce. Now, I'm not going to talk about UX, I'm not going to talk about fulfillment, I'm not going to talk about CRM, I'm not going to talk about sales drivers. Everyone else is going to talk about that, right? I'm purely going to talk to you from a marketing brand point of view about what I think about e-commerce and what's important to us at Beavertown. So, if I know anything, and you will find out over the next 90 minutes that I know very little, but if I know anything, I know that competition is good, right? It's important to have competitors, and it's important to have an active market that you participate in, right? Now, we were born out of that craft beer zeitgeist from a few years ago, and I'm sure you can think of some of our competitor brands, and everything sort of then went mainstream. We're in lots of pubs, we're in all the shops you expect us to be in, and that's great, right? But ultimately, that growth is always a challenge, right? Now, prior to Beavertown, I was one of the founders and the brand director of giffgaff, the mobile network. It was very e-commerce driven, predominantly our business was e-commerce driven. And we had the same challenge. How do you keep hold of your values and your purpose as you scale as a business? And why is that important? Well, it's important because you want to connect with your consumers. You want to connect with them both in a rational way. Does this product do the thing I want it to do? Is it available and can it be delivered in the way that I want it? Is it at a price that I want to pay for it? But also, great brands are emotional, right? You have an emotional connection to those brands. And that's why it's important as you scale and take on your competitors to stay true to your purpose, because ultimately, that's the emotional connection. So it's fantastic we've got loads of competitors, right? And the good news is, there's loads of great beer out there, right? Go into any shop, go into any pub, and you will have a wider choice than you will ever have had before over the beverages that you want to drink. And that's a really good thing. But it also gives us a little bit of a problem, right? And that little bit of a problem is, given now everyone's pretty good, everyone's looking really interesting, everyone's got cool pint glasses that no one used to have, how do you stand out, right? Ultimately, from my perspective, our number one business thing that we need to do is brand growth. And that's more important than sales growth, right? Because ultimately, that brand growth will help us drive those sales. It's a long-term commitment to what we're doing as a business, right? There's lots of graphs you can look at, you can Google it all you want, right? You've got sharp sales spikes, you've got long-term brand growth. We believe in long-term brand growth to drive the metrics that sit underneath that. And the same is absolutely true for e-commerce, right? Now, of course, from an e-commerce perspective, an e-commerce team, they're looking at all the things you'd expect them to with revenue and targets, fulfillment, and delivery rates and customer service targets and all of those things. But ultimately, when they turn up to work in the morning, they are there to deliver brand growth. And that is absolutely vital to what we're doing. And hopefully, over the next couple of slides, I'll unpack some of the ways that we're doing that. Now, to help us achieve that, we think in a different way, right? Now, at Beavertown, and it might be like the industry, it might be just the age of the business, there's lots of wonderful different types of people, but we do over-index in failed musicians. Our founder was a failed musician, our creative director was a failed musician, I'm a failed musician, therefore we try to think like a band and not like a brand, because we really want to be musicians. We just happen to work in business, right? So we actually find it quite helpful, because what that does is it's a different way to think about how we might approach the challenges that we're having, right? We talk a lot about that difficult second album. We talk, strangely, slightly too much about Coldplay, and I don't know why. And it's not always in a good way. I've seen them live, I had a lovely time. I had a lovely time. Well done, Chris. We all had a lovely time. If anyone's gone, they give you a lovely wristband. Have a little bit of a dance. So we try and think in a different way. And the thing is if that is going to work, well, we do that because we want to create intrigue, right? Intrigue is important to us because intrigue on a shelf in somewhere like Tesco is more interesting than not having intrigue in a shelf in Tesco, right? We want the brand to stand out, and we do that visually, right? We have a very impactful visual brand. We also want to do that in our naming conventions, whether or not the beer is called Neck Oil or Gamma Ray or Satellite or Laser Crush, right? We want to create intrigue with people, and that's really important. And the way we look upon it is, these are our core products, right? These are the CAM versions, I saw you seen these. Neck Oil, Gamma Ray, Satellite, Laser Crush, again. Something for everyone, something for everyone. It's going to be a long day. You might want to go to the pub afterwards. I would suggest you select from this portfolio, right? Totally up to you. But we think about beers as the songs, right? If we're the band, if the business is a band, these are our songs, and the artwork are lyrics, right? And every single artwork that we have on all of our cans is still hand-drawn by the same person that drew the first one, right? And that's really important to us, because if we want to create intrigue, and we want to drive that fame for the brands, we need to have that level of coherency. And what's important there, I did not say consistency, right? So lots of brands are consistent, right? And Marketing 101 would tell you, make your brand consistent. Wherever you see it, it looks the same. It keeps it top of mind, it's easy, consumers don't work that hard, blah, 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 right? We don't have a consistent brand. This is not consistent, right? We have a coherent brand. You understand, when you look at it, that it's a family of products that have a relationship with each other that comes from Beavertown, right? Because we believe that consumers are smart enough to understand that, right? So our core products are the songs that represent our brand, and the artwork is our lyrics, right? But we also want to create interesting soundscapes, right? We want to do interesting things. And for me, brands that play in culture and are culturally relevant are always more powerful than the brands that are not culturally relevant, right? So we want to play in culture. And we do that through making sure that our creative runs all the way through absolutely everything we do. So whether or not it's something you see on TV and something you buy on our website, or something you see on TV and something that happens in a pub on an app, or something that you see on TV and something that happens at one of our events, that creativity and that feel needs to run for everything, right? But here's the important thing that often goes a bit wonky, right? Is when you're taking those things, particularly from those big hero campaigns for those people that work in e-commerce or whatever you might do for bigger brands or brands that do a lot of advertising, it's forced downwards, right? So you have this creative idea, this campaign, and then it's forced through the channels, right? Now, the important thing here is that you have nuances and you twist it and you mold it to make sure that it can be delivered at full impact into that channel, right? So if we've got this hero campaign going up, and here you watch England get knocked out of, the Euros or whatever, and we're in the ad break, or we're on the side of a bus, or whatever it might be, of course I want you to come to the website, I want you to come to our app, I want you to come to our digital spaces and recognize the campaign is happening. That makes a lot of logical sense, and it makes sure that my marketing money is well spent, but it's the nuances and the experience that you want to give people in those spaces that matter. So I'll give you an example. This is our Big Above the Line campaign that we ran this year. We launched it in May, and it's just finished running. It's like the longest campaign in the world ever. And it's all about stories, right? So we took real people and their real stories about going to the pub. We filmed them and then we animated over the top of them. So these 4 women are real women, they're in a choir, they're all friends. We got they told us stories about when they went out, and we animated it and put it into our TV ad. Now, it would be very easy for us to just stick that on a website or stick that for our social channels and just sort of make people watch it, right? Now, of course, we kind of did that to some degree. I do want people to watch it, but ultimately we want to give people a far deeper content-led experience when it comes to the funnel of getting them through to purchasing from an e-commerce site. So we do that in a variety of ways. So we encouraged people on the home page. It's not about selling products, right? It's about that number one thing about growing the brand. We encouraged people to go to the site, tell us your pub stories, participate, right? Win some stuff, so there's some incentives for people to do that. And then we will publish those stories, right? So we did that in a variety of ways, and there's a user experience where people can do it through a video, they can do it through audio, they can WhatsApp, etc., right? So it's giving solutions that is very low bar for you to be able to participate in the campaign. And why that's important is because ultimately, if you've got this big umbrella campaign, which is all about telling stories about going to the pub, like, yeah, it's cool other people's stories, but my story is always better than someone else's, right? So you want to tell your story, you want to give the opportunity for people to be able to tell their stories. And that's what we did through the website. So you could go there and you could tell them, but ultimately we then took those stories and we then published them. So you've got this reciprocal cycle that goes on between the message that you're putting out in your above the line channels and what's happening in your below the line channels, namely the app, e-commerce, etc., etc. So we did that in a variety of ways. We got kind of influencers and comedians and all those kind of people to tell the stories, and we put those out on our social channels. We did stuff in pubs where you could go in and tell your story, and then we put those out through CRM. Or we did stuff where it's more text-based, right? So for people that text in or email stories in, then we could tell it. So that cycle is really important because ultimately we're fueling an experience for the brand that keeps people engaging with the brand when they're landing on the site, or they're landing on our app, or they're landing on our socials, or they're in a pub, right? And that keeps it sticky, right? Otherwise, I'm just telling you to buy stuff, right? I'm just telling you, oh, here's a thing that's happening, buy this brand, go to this place and buy this thing. It's like, who fucking cares, right? It's so one dynamic. So we need to keep that cycle going of giving people ways to interact with a brand that produces content and ultimately grows the brand and then drives sales further down the funnel, right? So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we give people an opportunity to go far deeper with the brand, right? Now, there will always be people that will just want to purchase, right? They can set up reminders and do all the usual stuff that I'm sure you know lots and lots about, around getting deliveries at a certain date, blah, blah, blah. Beer turns up at your doorstep. Cool, all right, great, right? Really good. But there's a lot of people that want to go far deeper with our brand, and we've seen that through qual and quant and data and all the rest of it, right? So we know that. That is a fact, right? So we have to give people an opportunity to do that, otherwise we're selling the brand short, right? So we do that in lots of ways. We do it through classic sales moments, right? Like Christmas, and giving people the opportunity to get exclusive, limited edition products. This is our advent calendar. Goes on sale very soon. If you've got a loved one or you particularly want to indulge yourself, then I recommend you pop over and buy it. There's not that many of them, they do sell out. So pop over. So of course we do stuff, e-commerce moments, sales moments, channel moments like Christmas, but you try and do it in an interesting way. We reinvent the brand every Christmas, so there'll be a different way to do it. But we also do stuff like clothing, right? And actually I saw someone earlier wearing one of our hats here, which I was particularly pleased about, but he's not here. He is missing this. He would like this. So we do stuff like clothing, right? So for those people that truly want to go just that little bit deeper into the brand, it gives them opportunity to be able to do that, right? So it's not just about core product, it's not just about selling this core set of beers again and again and trying to reinvent different ways to get people to buy the same thing. We're giving people the opportunities to go far deeper and have a much greater level of relationship with a brand if they want to, right? So clothing is the way that we do that. We also recently had our second pop-up shop. So this is a physical shop. Now I know here we talk about technology and digital things and it's online, but the world exists. So we also did a pop-up shop. It's the second time we've done it. Has a tattoo parlor in there. The slots for Beavertown tattoos sold out in 2 minutes, which is like terrifying. Some people in the team have, I don't, some people in the team have Beavertown tattoos. And I always think, if a performance review went really badly, it's going to be awfully awkward, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like if it's like, if you're literally like, I'm really sorry, I don't think this is working, and they've got a massive skull tattoo on their arm, I always think to them, but luckily they're all brilliant performers, so that's good. Maybe there's a link, right? So we did a physical experience. Now, in one way, this just gives us new stuff to talk about, right? So you can get most of these, not all of them, some of them are exclusives to the pop-up. You can get most of online, and it just gives us something new to talk about. But it's also, you know, you look at all the insights, people still want physical experiences, right? They still want to engage and feel the fabric of the clothing. So we did this, we took it, it's 2 weeks, DJs, beers, all the stuff that you'd expect, right? And it works really well. Now, the one other thing that people do, which pops up on our social, is tattoos, right? Now, as I mentioned, people within the team do have tattoos. Now, someone told me once, and I don't know how true this is, I don't know how you measure it, but Harley Davidson are meant to be the most tattooed brand in the world, right? And I think that makes sense, doesn't it? I'm not sure what it represents, but it clearly represents things to people that feel those things, right? And I get that, right? Now, to be a beer brand, right, and people feel that level of deep connection to want to do this, I'm bang up for this, right? From a marketing perspective, I'm like, this is gold dust, right? So we have to give people the ability to be able to go deeper with the brand, because right at the heart of that is that people want to do this, right? So if we didn't give that opportunity for people to go, yeah, actually, I'll buy a couple of beers, and yeah, the t-shirts are pretty cool, and I'll buy some of those, you know. We then didn't go a layer down and say, oh, well, we've got a physical shop. You want to come to a physical shop, you can participate, obviously run lots of events, and then give people the ability to go even deeper than that for those people that want to. In this instance, tattoos, but there's lots of other examples. Then I feel that we're not living up to the full potential of the brand, right? So, the number one thing that we want to do as a business is grow the brand above and beyond the sales and above and beyond what happens within our e-commerce platform, right? And we want to do that in 2 ways. We do that through giving people a way to engage with the brand, right? In this instance, for this year, around stories and telling stories. And we want to give people a way to engage with product at a far deeper level than just selling product, through clothing, through experiences, and ultimately, in this instant, through tattoos, right? So I've only got a couple of minutes left. Now, whenever I do anything like this, I just like to end talking about people, right? Because no business can exist without people, right? And ultimately, your business is only ever as good as the people that work for it, right? So, the most powerful thing in this room, which is a very big room, and possibly the loudest room I've ever been in. It's unbelievably loud, right? The most powerful thing in this very big, very loud room is not the technology, it is you. It is the people that sit in this room and listen and participate, right? That's the most powerful thing. And I think it's important that we remember that. And I'd like to say one other thing to you, right? Which is, what you do every day matters more than what you do every once in a while, right? So what you do every day matters more than what you do every once in a while, right? So I'd like you to think about that. And when we get to January, and you're going to work on a tube or the train, or you're going to some meeting and you have to fly somewhere or whatever, and you haven't got any money, right? It's miles till payday, it's raining, your hair's gone frizzy, you haven't washed it, it's all gone to pot, it's January the 2nd, right? Just remember that every minute of every day actually truly does matter. Now, if that is a little bit too deep for you, there's another way to think about it, which is to be like the old Kanye, right? All right? That's the other way to think about it. So if you can't remember the longhand, just remember, be like Kanye. Now, My Dark Twisted Fantasy is not only one of the best hip-hop albums ever made, it's one of the best albums ever made, but Kanye does push that loyalty, he does push that loyalty. Okay, so, brands, push it down the line, do interesting things, keep people coming back, give them ways to go deeper with the brand, and ultimately, you are the most important people, right? Not the technology. That is it from me. Thank you very much.